This is the week before the annual NAB show, and our industry is going nuts. Tonight, we preview what to expect at the show, key trends to watch, and some advice if this is your first time at NAB. We start with Chris Brown, the Executive Vice President for Conventions and Business at the National Association of Broadcasters. It's Chris's job to design and present the annual NAB show, and tonight he showcases what we can expect. Next, Ned Soltz, contributing editor for Red Shark News, shares his thoughts on what to expect next week with cameras, codecs, and production technology. Next, Terence Curren, the founder and president of Alpha Dogs, looks at NAB from a post-production and business point of view. We also want to learn whether he feels NAB is still relevant to the post industry. Next, Philip Hodgetts, the CEO of Intelligent Assistants, stops by to share his thoughts on what new technology we can expect to see next week. Next, Michael Kammes, the Director of Technology for KeyCode Media, shares what he expects in terms of collaboration, storage, workflow, and distribution technology. All this plus James DeRuvo with our weekly doddleNEWS update. The buzz starts now.
Since the dawn of digital filmmaking,
authoritative.
One show serves a worldwide network of media professionals.
Current.
Uniting industry experts,
Production.
filmmakers,
Post-production.
and content creators around the planet.
Distribution.
From the media capital of the world in Los Angeles, California, the Digital Production Buzz goes live now.
Welcome to the Digital Production Buzz, the world's longest-running podcast for the creative content industry, covering media production, post-production, and marketing around the world. Hi, my name is Larry Jordan. The week before NAB is almost as manic as the week of NAB. Press releases and new announcements flood email systems. Every vendor wants to be seen as ahead of the curve in its area of technology. Tonight, we'll hear from our experts on what trends and technology we need to pay attention to. But before we move to NAB, two big announcements that I want to touch on. First, Adobe released updates to all of its Creative Cloud software this week. These provided significant updates in moving projects between applications, audio and color management, and virtual reality. James will touch on this in his report in just a few minutes, and we'll have in-depth interviews with two Adobe executives on Monday as part of our NAB show coverage at nabshowbuzz.com. Second, this morning, Apple formally announced that the modular Mac Pro will be shipping in 2019. Additionally, they went into detail on the team they've assembled of both engineers and power users to examine how to improve not just their hardware, but their operating system and software to make it more responsive to the pro user. This announcement continues Apple's new policy of letting high-end pro users know what's coming before the products actually ship, and I strongly applaud this newfound openness. One more thing. Our first guest tonight is Chris Brown. It is impossible to overstate his importance to the annual NAB show. He and his team handle every aspect of the show, from venue to facilities to exhibits to conferences. I've always enjoyed talking with Chris. I've found him very approachable and focused on creating the best show possible. He's our first guest this evening. But before we start, it's time for our doddleNEWS update with James DeRuvo. And boy, do we have news today. Hello, James.
Hi, Larry.
Well, do you have anything to talk about this week?
Here we are, Larry, practically the eve of NAB. And as such, there's a tsunami of announcements that's not going to stop until the last door is locked at the Las Vegas Convention Center next Thursday.
So what have you got for us that's news?
GlideCam is announcing a new HD Pro stabilizer. It's capable of carrying up to 10 pounds of camera gear. They say it's light and balanced, and they want to underscore that there's no need for batteries, software, or firmware updates. Just as GlideCam puts it, simple mechanical reliability.
Cool. What else?
Pond 5 has three major announcements for NAB this year. They're launching a marketplace for drone stock footage in partnership with DJI Global. They're releasing their Enterprise Suite, which will enable production companies to manage costs and availability of stock footage by limiting search features according to price and level. And they're also have a new AI-driven visual search platform that allows users to see around them to search for content that they put to use in their own projects. They say this is an ideal solution for location scouting in a virtual environment, traveling producers and creators in search of ideas. Then we have Zhiyun. Zhiyun is this Chinese tech company that come out with some pretty cool 3-axis gimbals for mobile smartphones and mobile filmmaking. And their new Smooth Force stabilizer adds professional features, including a follow focus hand wheel that enables you to control follow focus and zoom right on the gimbal. It's really cool. Meanwhile, Sling Studio is expanding their Mac desktop support. Sling's live video streaming is now coming to the desktop, taking many of the features that users enjoy in their iPads and bringing them to the iMac and the MacBook Pro, and all in 4K. So you can basically, if you're broadcasting a local sporting contest, you have ESPN capability on a YouTube budget. Canon is going to be showing off a 13K APS-H CMOS sensor at NAB this year. They've already got some test footage out on the internet. Is a 120 megapixel CMOS sensor that is 6 times the number of pixels as their EOS 1DX Mark II.
Wait, 13,000 pixels in the sensor?
13K, 13.2K. It's huge. But it's mostly going to be used for search and rescue and surveillance applications. So I wouldn't be expecting a movie to be made with it anytime soon.
Okay, what else is happening?
Beach Tech also has the DXA Alexa audio adapter. Now, we all know that the preamps in our DSLR cameras pretty much suck. And Beach Tech has the answer with these great products that improve the audio coming from their microphone. The DXLA Alexa takes it to the highest end with a preamp for the Arri Alexa and Red DSCM2 camera lines with an ultra-low noise capability and a modular design that'll just screw right onto the back of your camera. And Atomos is adding the world's first ProRes RAW external monitor recorder. Based on a new format by Apple, ProRes RAW, it'll offer up to 12-bit RGB ProRes files with HDR support and 5.7K resolution. Atomos has also updated their Sumo 19 and Shogun Infernos to support Panasonic's EVA1 full RAW output. Finally, Apple wants us to know they haven't forgotten about the modular Mac. They've set a shipping date of 2019, and the company has formed a dedicated professional engineering group to focus on professional Mac applications at the Mac OS line, featuring the modular Mac, the higher-end iMac Pro in general. They just want us to know they're not giving up.
These are some amazing announcements. What else are you keeping your eyes on?
It just doesn't stop. Adobe drops their annual spring update, and there's some really great new features in there. JVC is going wireless with Connected Cam, and we have some remarkable results of our readers poll, and we can't wait to share it at NAB.
And where can people go to keep track of all of this news?
All these stories and more can be found at doddleNEWS.com.
And James DeRuvo is the editor-in-chief of DoddleNEWS and joins us every week. And James, you're going to be with us for NAB, are you not?
Every day at 5 o'clock.
I look forward to talking to you then. Thanks, James.
All right. Take care.
Starting Monday, April 9, join the digital production buzz at the 2018 NAB Show in Las Vegas, Nevada. Larry Jordan and the Buzz team are taking their microphones on the road to cover the latest news and announcements from the largest media show in the world. Every hour of every day, the Buzz is live on the trade show floor. More than 100 interviews, creating 27 new shows in 4 days. The Buzz has webcast directly from NAB for 10 years, and our coverage is legendary, heard in more than 195 countries around the world. If you're attending the show, visit us at booth SL10 527 and say hello. If you can't attend, visit nabshowbuzz.com for a schedule of shows and guests. That's nabshowbuzz.com and join the buzz at NAB.
Chris Brown is the Executive Vice President for Conventions and Business Operations at the National Association of Broadcasters. He and his team are responsible for producing all of the NAB's major events, including NAB Shows in Las Vegas, New York, and Shanghai. Hello, Chris. Welcome back.
Hi, Larry. How are you?
We are just a few days away from the start of the 2018 NAB Show in Las Vegas. What can we expect this year?
Well, as always, we tried to mix it up quite a bit. Our challenge every year is to bring things that are new and fresh to the equation. A lot of that, of course, is happily done by the industry itself, by all those exhibitors that come to our show, and there'll be 1,700 to 1,800 of those at the show, covering 3 buildings, 4 halls in Las Vegas. So always lots and lots to see on the expo floor at the show. And then on the conference side, we fill in around all of that with lots and lots of educational programming, between 500 and 600 total individual sessions running across a range of different subjects. And we really try to build in something for just about everybody, always trying to add bring new wrinkles. So we've got a whole range of new programs in the mix and a lot of other things going on.
Why is new so important? I mean, the exhibit floor is filled with new. Why does NAB need to reflect it?
We're always trying to bring new audiences to the event. Part of that is all of the companies at the show are, looking to reach those audience, but also our industry is so interesting, so diverse, and is now touching so many different sides of what happens in media, entertainment, and technology, which just happens to be our theme again this year, the MET effect, media, entertainment, and technology effect. And when you think about all the different sectors and all the different elements and pieces that sort of connect into that, what we really want to do at the show every year is kind of, reflect, as complete a picture as we can and bring as many of those folks into the event and into the dialogue with everybody that's there to make it a richer experience. To get people interested, we've got to be able to provide some content or some programs that add value for them. And so a couple of examples. One, we've added a esports program, which is a first for us. We have a new travel video award program that we're doing to try to bring more of those content creators into the mix. Those are just a couple of examples of how we and why we want to focus on new.
Well, one of the things NAB is famous for are its keynote speeches and the speakers that you invite. How do you pick the people to speak?
Great question, and another challenge. And for us, it's certainly thought leaders. I mean, we need people who and people who can be thought provoking as well. It's one of those things where for us the idea is always keep people sort of thinking ahead and thinking forward in terms of what might be coming. And of course, that is something that everyone in this industry is focused on because of just how much it's changing and how much it has changed over the last couple of years. So we've got to be able to bring people who can bring insight to that and who can and have thoughts about how everything is developing. And so we're really looking for and some obviously name recognition. I mean, we need people who folks will recognize, respect, and want to attend, spending an hour or so listening to what they have to say. And I think for us too, there's a couple of other factors. One is balance. We need balance across the different sides of our business. I mentioned sort of the business aspects, the technical aspects, and the creative aspects. So we'd like to try and have people that kind of can come in and sort of address each of those three sides, and then beyond that. And this is not always that easy either, and that is some diversity of voices. So we are looking for female executives, of course, and ethically diverse folks and that type of thing, and leaders on that side. So we want a real diversity of voices if we can on that main stage, and we go through a lot of invites to sort of work through and get to the right folks.
For people attending the show, are there any apps we can download to help us find our way around? Because NAB only seems to get bigger every year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, happily we do have a great show app, and easy enough for folks to do. Whether if you've got an Apple phone, all you do is go to the Apple Store, type in. You can either type in NAB Show or just 2018 NAB Show is how it's labeled, and then same thing on the Android platform. It's in the Play Store, 2018 NAB Show. Search on that. Download it, and that'll have everything that you can also get on the web. There's plenty of ways you can kind of get through to all the information on what's going on.
Chris, I know you're busy. I'm going to let you go, but I'm curious, have you started planning next year yet?
We have, believe it or not, and we have to. I mean, it's about an 18-month process for us, and always starts with, one of the big parts of the product we put together is the expo floor, and so we really have to kind of lay that out and design that several months before the current year event is occurring, and so we've already done that, and believe it or not, we're already in discussion with many of our exhibitors. We'll work with about 400 or 500 of our most loyal exhibitors here in the next couple of weeks to try to figure out what their space needs might be, or get a sense for that and start to lay some of that in. So by the time we get to the show, we have next year's, expo floor beginning to take shape. It's not totally done, but a good portion of it is.
Chris, for people who want more information about the 2018 NAB show, where can they go on the web? NABshow.com. So just that simple. And, I would encourage people to kind of keep coming back to the site because we are still adding information, populating, adding additional listings and so forth. So always good to keep checking back. And Chris Brown is the Executive Vice President for Conventions and Business Operations at the National Association of Broadcasters. Chris, as always, this has been fun. Thanks for your time.
Great. Thank you, Larry.
Ned Soltz is an author, editor, educator, and consultant on all things related to digital video. He's a contributing editor for Red Shark News, and best of all, he's a regular here on The Buzz. Hello, Ned. Welcome back.
Hi, Larry, and good to be back in this pre-NAB show.
I don't care when it is, Ned. It is always good to have you back.
Indeed, a pleasure.
Ned, we just heard Chris Brown describe the 2018 NAB show, so what I want to talk with you about are some of the trends and new gear that we can expect at the show. If you look at it from an overall perspective, what are your thoughts?
I'm probably going to predict a lot less new gear in the camera department than in years gone by, because we've seen this trend right now that essentially people are well invested in cameras and are looking to try to prolong that investment as long as possible. That means that we're going to be seeing cameras with a little longer lifespan, but with greater ability to be updated in functionality, whether that is in firmware updates or even in component updates. A good example of that is the Canon C700, which was already announced as a Super 35 camera. Canon's taking a second shot at this right now with a full-frame sensor for the C700, which I think now really positions that camera in a far stronger position in the production marketplace, because we have a camera that's now priced at $33,000 in the full frame, which puts it comparable with Reds and puts it a little less than Sony Venice. It's full frame. But more than that, those people who did invest in a Canon C700 Super 35 can send that back to Canon for a paid update to change the sensor block out to the full frame sensor. So one of the trends that we are seeing is that trend toward full frame. And as other people have remarked, it really isn't so much of a trend because, remember, all of this whole digital stuff that we spend our lives on started with the Canon 5D Mark II. And guess what that was? It was a full frame 35 millimeter sensor. I'm using Canon as an example of how the camera exists, but the firmware, technology, even hardware aspects of it can be updated.
You've described in the past that many cameras are simply computers with lenses. If that's the case, it sounds like what we're seeing is a continuation of that trend where we just keep updating the software and the hardware remains the same. Is that too oversimplified?
It's perhaps a bit oversimplified because we do reach a point where there's a limit to how far you can push cameras as new sensor technologies emerge and as demand for those new sensor technologies emerge. Yes, it's true that we can update the firmware, but we still have to keep in mind physical hardware limitations and how much the market will be able to sustain fewer advances in that sensor technology, if you follow my drift.
Clearly, all the major camera manufacturers will have some new news to talk about at the show, but are there new companies or new gear that we should keep our eyes open for?
Well, I think we should always keep our eyes open for black magic. You never know what kind of magic they are going to pull out of the hat. To be frank about it, in prior years, Blackmagic was a very promising company. That is to say, it would promise you anything. Let's just say they were operating on very ambitious delivery schedules in all good intent. Now, however, I think they've been burned a few times and realize that any product that they announce pretty much is either shipping right away or available in prototype, or they can count on the date a little bit more. So I begin to wonder what Blackmagic may have up its sleeve. I don't anticipate Red to be exhibiting anymore. They didn't last year, and I think it's probably not their best investment to spend the hundreds of thousands of dollars that it takes to put up a booth at NAB, and I dare say that Red booth could have approached $1 million that they've had in prior years. But we've already seen new releases from Red. And again, to tell the truth, when there are new startup cameras, I look at all of this, new startup companies, very askance. Because, it's one thing to produce a prototype of a camera. It's quite another thing to go into mass production of that camera. In the automobile world, Elon Musk is discovering that with the Tesla 3. The concepts are wonderful, but it's all in the execution. So I hesitate to think about any kind of upstarts that might be coming along. But I think it is worth mentioning as well that Panasonic has now stayed on schedule and updated the EVA1 firmware to include the 5.7K raw output, to add extra iframe, to have internal high frame rate as well as time lapse. They delivered what they promised, a little bit more than what they promised, and they delivered it on time. So I think that's going to position the EVA1 very well. A camera should have a little more legs to it than just a 1 or 2 year product cycle.
If you were to allocate your time at NAB, should we spend more time learning about VR or HDR?
It depends on your world. In my world, I would spend more time on HDR because I don't really plan on shooting, editing, and dealing with a lot of VR, although that is not just virtual reality in the world, but it is real reality in the world in terms of delivery. But it's not my thing. Whereas I think HDR is probably something that any content creator has to be very much aware of. The delivery mechanisms through over-the-top services are there. So I think we really need to be thinking in terms of HDR, particularly because our cameras have shot that for so many years. We've had all these 14-stop, 15-stop, or whatever they are, dynamic range cameras, and no way really to deliver on that dynamic range. Now we finally have it, and we got to learn how to use it. And we've got to have the tools that allow us to deal with that in a way that not just production or studio level or production house level can do, but individuals. So as an example, Canon has released a couple of HDR reference monitors in the $25,000-$30,000 range. A production house is going to buy one of those, and small houses and small editors such as myself are going to buy 0 of them. But we need to figure out how we're going to be able to monitor this HDR and how we're going to be able to deliver and figure out all of the formats that are there, HLG, PQ, Dolby, and what we could work with. So yes, the answer is spend time with HDR.
You've been going to NAB for a long time. With so much information available online today, is NAB even relevant?
I think trade shows are relevant. Also, as a general commentator on society, I think there is very little to replace human contact. We have so virtualized human communications that we really end up sitting in front of screens and trolling each other because we don't have human contact anymore. So I think the human contact is important. More than that, production and post-production are more than just specs. They are the reality of how a piece of gear feels, how that piece of gear looks to you, what ergonomics that gear has, and how those ergonomics work with your own body, for example. There are some cameras that I just absolutely can't shoot, and there are some cameras that I can shoot just because of habit and muscle memory, and I've got to try those out. I've got to see what it looks like. An image may look wonderful on the scopes, and it looks terrible on a reference monitor. So I need to look at that image and see if that's the kind of image that I like and want to work with and want to deliver. So trade shows remain very relevant. It's worth every bit of it.
And Ned, for people who want to learn more about your thinking and writing, where can they go on the web?
They can go to www.redsharknews.com, where I have assorted reviews, opinions, and product announcements.
That website is Red Shark News, and Ned Soltz is a contributing editor for the website, redsharknews.com. And Ned, your opinions are always valuable. I'll see you at NAB.
I'm looking forward to it, Larry.
Terence Curren is the founder and president of Alpha Dogs, a Burbank-based post-production facility that he started in 2002. Terry is also the host of the Editor's Lounge, a regular gathering of post-production professionals interested in improving their craft. Hello, Terry. Welcome back.
Good evening, Larry. It's always good to be here with you.
It is always fun to talk with you. I enjoy every visit. This week, we're previewing what to expect at the 2018 NAB show, and your company focuses on post-production, so let's take a look at that. What can we expect?
It's an interesting question. It does bring up the question of how important is NAB anymore for, let's say, editors to go to. Actually, Philip and I just recorded a whole Terence and Philip show on the very subject, and it came up a lot at the Editor's Lounge pre-NAB, Editor's Lounge panel. You know, the thing is, most of what you're going to see there, you've already seen online. And that's what's kind of changed with how NAB was. We used to go up there anticipating what new features are we going to see in our favorite NLE or editing software or effects package or a graphics package, etc. And now with monthly subscriptions for most of them, you get new releases every month. So there's not really anything they're holding out. So that part doesn't really apply anymore. I think what people are going to see, and if you're a larger facility maybe or a post supervisor, you might be more interested, is a lot of focus on AI and how it's going to be used in improving workflow, post workflows, et cetera. I think that's going to be the big focus for people. Certainly there'll be talk about how do you do HDR, how do you do more on dealing with 4K and now maybe 8K. VR, a lot of VR stuff, even though I don't really know anybody who needs to work in VR. So those are the big things. But the AI is probably going to be, AI and cloud-based editing are probably going to be big things for post people.
Do you see NAB shifting from a what's the news focus to how do I do it focus?
A little bit. I mean, it's always kind of been that way. You know, traditionally NAB would be, it's like a 2-year cycle. 1 year they'd go, hey, this is the new thing we're going to be doing. And next year it's like, oh, okay, here's how we actually do it. We watched that cycle through our whole careers. But now stuff moves so fast. And again, we've got the internet. It doesn't matter what features announced. I mean, Adobe just announced their new features for Premiere and After Effects and whatnot. And you can watch the stuff online. You can already see demos, et cetera. So you kind of lose that I have to go to NAB thrust as far as that goes. And then I guess access to the people who are actually doing the design or engineering. Used to go to NAB for that reason. You could maybe find a product designer or an engineer and go, hey, how come things are done this way? And what would really help is if you did it that way, et cetera, et cetera. But now, once again, with the internet and email and Facebook groups, et cetera, you can get that feedback directly to those people and from those people without having to go anywhere. So I kind of feel, unless you're a large broadcaster or if you're doing, large equipment installs, et cetera, that NAB doesn't make as much sense anymore. I can see it for somebody, like Ned with the cameras, because he's got to actually, get hands-on with the cameras. But hands-on with an NLE is more demo at this point, and that can be done with a YouTube video.
Well, let me play devil's advocate.
Sure.
I think you have a strong point if you talk about the Blackmagics or the Sonys or the Adobes of the world, because one, they have a huge presence at NAB, but two, they also have a huge presence online.
Yep.
But one of the strengths of NAB is discovering what you don't know. The smaller companies around the edges, the guys that don't have a big social media presence because they're not a big company yet. Do you think that NAB is still valuable as a process of discovery?
I agree with you. Traditionally, that was the thing. I mean, I used to love, that was my favorite part of NAB, was the walking around, the back hall when you'd see these little booths and go, oh, look what these guys are doing. But the reality is now I learn anything like that in some group, some online group. If you're in a Facebook, like Avid Editors, a Facebook group, or Avid L2 group, or Post Chat group, et cetera, there's, a lot of different groups. If you're in those, somebody's going to go, man, you should see this new software I just found. So you're going to find out about it. And then that company will have an online presence. Like Philip Hodgetts is a perfect example, because they're going to have their first booth this year, I believe. For their type of product, how would you find that normally? Traditionally, you would have had to find it at NAB in, a back row. But now his products are talked about all the time in various chats. Somebody goes, hey, I really need to be able to do X, Y, Z. And then somebody also go, hey, Philip Hodgetts has an app that'll do that. I guess from that standpoint, we've kind of lost the need. I mean, if you didn't have to suffer Vegas, maybe it would be worth it.
Well, are you going to NAB this year?
No. And after going for over 25 years, I haven't gone the last 3 years and I haven't missed it. I do go to the HPA Tech Retreat, which is sort of like the TED Talks of our industry. And I get so much more from that, because that is future looking and it's very diverse and it's a much more focused networking area too. So you're hanging out with, the best and the brightest in our industry. That I get a much larger return from. The only thing I can say that I missed from NAB would be the networking that I did in seeing people from around the world that I don't normally see, because they're all in one place. But the flip side of that is, like, I know Michael Kammes likes to talk about, the parties. Like, you go to the parties and you do all the networking and all this kind of stuff. But the reality is, if you've been to a party out there, you know that if you really want to have a conversation with somebody, the next day you are going to be both deaf and hoarse, because it's everything is so loud, it's very difficult.
Well, now that you've got us all depressed.
No. This isn't depressing. This is just, there's other options that are better.
So if someone is going to NAB for the first time, as opposed to you who've been going for 25 years, what advice do you have for them to make a success of the show? Because it's still an exciting time and a very interesting place to attend.
Yes, I would definitely suggest that somebody goes at least once or twice, for sure. As a yearly thing, maybe not so much anymore. The big keys are, one, drink tons of water. Have a backpack with extra bottles of water in it, so you don't have to take out a mortgage to buy water like you have when you go into the convention center. It's extremely important to keep drinking water, even if you don't think you're thirsty. In Las Vegas, you have to keep drinking water. Two, super comfortable shoes, and break them in before you get up there. Don't wait till you get there to wear them for the first time. When you're standing on cement in the convention halls all day long, it will kill your feet. And really, other than eating, you're pretty much standing the whole time you're up at NAB. You're either standing at a party or you're standing on the convention floor. There's very little sitting time. Three is to have a plan. Either use the app or use their printed out directories or whatever, and kind of make a game plan of where you're going to hit and when. and try to keep a focus on one hall per day or one hall, say I'm going to do 4 hours in the South Hall or whatever. Because if you end up going, well, I want to go see this product, it's in the South Hall, and then I'm going to go look at this thing in the North Hall, you're going to spend half an hour just getting from one place to the other, which is a lot of wasted time when you're trying to focus. So how's that for tips?
I think those are excellent tips. And if you were to sort of list your top 3 things that you expect out of NAB, what would they be?
I'm certainly hoping there'll be a lot of talk about HDR because we need to get that kind of standardized for people. I think there'll be a lot of talk about cloud computing again. And then the third is AI and how it's going to be used. I know that's a very broad term, AI, but there's so many ways that the drudgery of post-production can be eliminated using tools like AI. Just logging footage, for instance. So I think it's extremely important. I think it's going to be a dynamic area going forward. And I think that this will be a year that a lot of it starts to pop out.
And Terry, for people who want more information about you and your company, where can they go on the web?
Well, you can check out Alpha Dogs at www.alphadogs.tv, and you can check out Editor's Lounge at editorslounge.com. And, of course, there's the aforementioned Terence and Philip Show.com for our podcast.
That website is Alpha Dogs, ALPHADOGS, alphadogs.tv. And Terence Curren is the founder and president of Alpha Dogs. Terry, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, that's the Terence of the Terence and Philip Show, but the Philip has yet to be heard from. Philip Hodgetts is the CEO of both Intelligent Assistance and Lumberjack System. Even better, he is a regular here on The Buzz who specializes in explaining new technology. Hello, Philip.
Hey, Larry, perhaps we're on the wrong side of NAB to explain the new technology.
So you've heard Terry suggest that the world is going to be revolving around HDR and cloud and artificial intelligence. What's your thought? What trends are going to dominate the discussion next week?
I think you're spot on. HDR will absolutely be front and center. I think we'll see a lot of VR, but VR is kind of specialized. You need the support in the editing tools and you need the playback devices, but there's nothing really there's not a lot of other aspects to VR that we can talk about. Whereas HDR, there's a whole lot of acquisition. There's new monitors, there's new cameras, new codecs like Apple's ProRes RAW they announced this morning. These are things that are going to make HDR workflows much more practical. And if we could only get a couple of affordable HDR monitors, that would be nice too.
Well, Ned mentioned that Canon's going to be releasing a couple of affordable HDR monitors in a $25,000 to $30,000 category. I'm not sure that qualifies as affordable for me.
I know there are some people for whom that sounds like it's affordable, but I'm with you. It does not sound affordable to me. Anything that's more than my annual mortgage payment is not probably that's all I have it used for.
Well, take a step back, because Apple did announce a new codec today, and codecs, as you and I both know, are something we both enjoy talking about. But what is ProRes RAW?
ProRes RAW is exactly like it sounds. It takes the raw data off the sensor and it encodes it in a way that it's not changed. So it's really just, here's the data, we encode it into a format that stores all of that original data, and we can store it fairly efficiently into a format that is designed now for optimal playback. One of the problems with long-GOP systems is that long-GOP codecs is that they take a lot more processing power to play back. And one of the reasons why RAW, for example, Red RAW in its early days was so incredibly hard to play back, is that we're taking a function that the camera does once and doing that in real time on every playback, and that's called debayering. Quick lesson, and you can look it up online, and Apple's white paper explains it quite well. Normally, we'd have a set of 4 pixels, 2 that are taking green values, 2 that are taking red values, one that's taking a red value, one taking a blue value. And we average the color over those 4 pixels. And when we encode that to a standard video format, we're encoding an RGB value for every pixel. If we take that raw, we're only actually really encoding the red value, 2 green values, and 1 blue value, and we're going to do that decoding, the debayering, in the NLE as we play it back.
But I thought RAW was uncompressed, and ProRes is a compressed format. Are we losing too much in that conversion from RAW to ProRes, or am I misunderstanding what RAW is?
Well, RAW is by definition giving you all of the data off the sensor. It could be compressed in some form. I mean, a codec is a compressed, decompressed cycle, but it can be completely lossless. In this case, we're not encoding the RGB values for each pixel. What we're encoding are the original values that are behind the image, the color, so that it's a red value, a green value, and a blue value, instead of an RGB value, an RGB value, an RGB value, and an RGB value. Once we do that debayering, we've got to actually carry a lot more information than the raw signal.
Okay, well, let's shift gears. Before we get, because then it's only going to be you and me talking about this.
Yeah, everyone's switching off rapidly and going to what.
One of the thoughts that Ned mentioned is that there's a cycle to NAB where there's new products announced one year and then we explain how the products work the second year. Are you expecting a lot of new technology, or are you expecting a lot of discussion how existing technology is supposed to work?
I am expecting, and Terry alluded to this, I'm expecting a lot more AI-focused tools. They'll say AI, they mean machine learning, and most instances will be using off-the-shelf APIs that we've talked about before, like the cognitive services. For example, Pond5 announced this morning that they're doing image search now using AI/machine learning. I think we'll get a lot more announcements of things like that, particularly in the asset management space, because it makes a lot of sense there to be able to search by word or search by image. I think we'll start to see this machine learning applied right across the whole production spectrum for maximum effect.
Well, before I run out of time, I should ask, is your company showing anything new at the show?
Yes. Well, thank you, Larry, for asking. Finally, we previewed Lumberjack Builder at IBC. We finally have a working, releasable, in beta right now, Lumberjack Builder, and yesterday, Greg added the most amazing extra feature to everything that we showed at IBC. Is now we can bring all of the keyword ranges from Final Cut, and they get applied to the transcript ranges inside Builder, which just completes the whole circle. So the logging you do on set comes right through to post-production, and it's there on your transcripts as you build a video story using text.
Okay, hold it.
So
take a breath. Pretend that we haven't been living with Builder for the last 2.5 years, as you and your team have. What's Builder?
Builder is text-driven video editing. We looked at all of the options for transcription, and we will be building in speech-to-text, hooking into an API. But we decided that the workflow, even if you get to a perfect transcripts into Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro 10, the workflow is not great. So we looked at the workflow, and we came up with a tool that is workflow for Final Cut, for transcription-based workflows for Final Cut Pro 10. So you build the story. You do build your video edit by actually manipulating text paragraphs and trimming text paragraphs. And in trimming the text, you're trimming the video and audio behind it at the same time. So when you're ready to go back to Final Cut Pro 10, it's not a 2 or 3 day conform of every clip. It's instantly there in your timeline as a project that you can then start to improve on.
So for people who like to think about the words that are being said, not the pictures, this is a fast way to build your rough cut based on story.
Exactly, yeah. There's a lot of people building documentary workflows and reality workflows that are working exactly this way. And most of the tools are just not that good for it at the moment. And so we decided to make something that was better, and I think we've really done a great job.
One last quick question. Have you had a chance to read the information on Final Cut that was released this morning, and any quick thoughts?
I think it's a great incremental update. We've probably waited a little too long for the bug fix, but getting new features along with the bug fix, the ProRes codec, the caption support is interesting. It's not something that's right in neither. I don't acquire high-end footage, and I don't do closed captions, but I think they're both important steps along and tools to have in a professional NLE.
I tend to agree. I think the new features are nice, but the real strength in this release is the bug fixes, of which there are almost unlimited numbers. It's a lot stronger. Philip, for people that need more information, where can they go on the web?
PhilipHodgetts.com is where I occasionally write a blog post. LumberjackSystem.com or IntelligentAssistance.com are all good places to find me.
That's all one word, LumberjackSystem.com. Philip Hodgetts is the CEO of both Intelligent Assistance and Lumberjack System. And Philip, as always, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Take care. Bye-bye. Here's another website I want to introduce you to, doddleNEWS.com. DoddleNEWS gives you a portal into the broadcast, video, and film industries. It's a leading online resource presenting news, reviews, and products for the film and video industry. doddleNEWS also offers a resource guide and crew management platform specifically designed for production. These digital call sheets, along with their app, directory, and premium listings, provide in-depth organizational tools for busy production professionals. doddleNEWS is a part of the Thalo Arts community, a worldwide community of artists, filmmakers, and storytellers. From photography to filmmaking, performing arts to fine arts, and everything in between, Thalo is filled with resources you need to succeed. Whether you want the latest industry news, need to network with other creative professionals, or require state-of-the-art online tools to manage your next project, there's only one place to go, doddleNEWS.com. In his current role as Director of Technology at KeyCode Media, Michael Kammes consults on the latest in technology and best practices into digital media and communications. Hello, Michael. Welcome back.
Hi, Larry. Good to talk to you.
It is always fun, because if there's one guy that just geeks out over NAB, it has got to be you.
Oh, I love this. This is my Christmas and Hanukkah and birthday all wrapped up into one. I look forward to this. I can't sleep the night before. I'm just it's so excited for technology.
But other than that, you don't have a particular opinion. As you know, we're talking about projecting what's going to happen at NAB this year. I'm curious about what you see as some of the trends and gear we can expect at NAB this year.
Well, there's a couple key areas. I think some of your previous guests have already mentioned AI. I think obviously, last year we saw some proofs of concepts. We've heard it's coming, and I'm fully expecting to see some shipping products this year. I'm really excited about the move to video over IP, the death of SDI, as it were. Traditional broadcast infrastructures and clients have been using SDI spigots out of cameras and out of routers and switchers. And I think the move to an Ethernet-based topology where you don't have to worry about a separate signal for one way and then the way back, doing everything over an IP-based network is really going to change the live broadcast industry. And I'm really looking forward to that.
It's going to change the live broadcast industry, but we're going to have massive bandwidth issues. If we're starting to deal with 4K and raw images, that exceeds a standard gigabit Ethernet. We're going to have to rewire our cable and rewire our plants, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at the SMPTE overlord standards, we're talking about data rates that are just massive. But then we look at manufacturers like NewTek who have NDI, where we're talking, DVC Pro HD data rates. We're talking 10 to 12 megabytes a second, which is easily done over a LAN. So there are other alternatives to moving to the uncompressed video over IP standard that SMPTE has been pushing.
Video over IP is that big a deal, huh?
Yeah, we're finding it quite a bit for smaller facilities. I mean, and non-traditional broadcast facilities. We're not going to change over, a PBS station to be all Ethernet based, but smaller, YouTube channels and smaller portable studios or internal marketing. It makes complete sense if they're building from the ground up and they're going to spend $100,000. Why not go IP? I think retrofitting is going to be a bit more of a long-term goal, but for new facilities and new portable setups, it makes sense.
Adobe released updates to all of its Creative Cloud software this week. What do you see as the impact of this?
I think they're bringing their ecosystem even tighter. When we talk about the enhanced functionality in the motion graphics panel, the essential graphics panel, I think that's going to make the ability for multiple apps to talk to each other a little bit easier. I think it opens the door for more mobile type applications, so they can use some of these essential graphics in mobile applications to kind of bridge that gap between a workstation and laptop and mobile devices. So I'm very excited about that.
What are your thoughts on collaboration? Are we going to see anything at NAB?
That's a loaded question. I mean, obviously Adobe had Adobe Anywhere. That's gone. They now have team projects, and they now have project sharing, which I've been eagerly awaiting the second version of to kind of fix some of the 1.0 bugs. But I'm really excited about that because that means broadcast facilities and high-end creatives that use Adobe and Avid can now use shared storage and share projects on the same shared storage. And I really like the ability to bounce back and forth between applications and have different creatives and different departments work together.
Thinking of storage, you expecting any new technology in storage?
You know, you can't go to NAB and throw a stone in South Hall Lower without knocking over a few storage manufacturers. I don't expect there to be anything groundbreaking. I think we're going to see more people putting SSDs and flash memory and sharing it out as a generic NAS. We've seen that happen for quite a while. In fact, that's what's bringing down the cost of SANs, is because there's inexpensive NASs coming out, causing the whole market to drop their price. I think we're going to see more hybrid storage, meaning more object-based storage where you're simultaneously storing it locally on shared storage, but also pushing it up to the cloud and having that distributed amongst multiple places in the cloud so you have more redundancy. But I don't see anything else massively groundbreaking for storage at this NAB.
You've already mentioned the fact that Avid users and Adobe users can use the same shared storage. Are you looking for other advances in workflow from other vendors?
Yes, there's actually an area of the industry that's been kind of stagnant over the past couple of years, and that's remote editing. And I don't mean shipping a hard drive off to, whatever beach you're vacationing at and editing while you're on the beach. I'm talking about folks who are great editors who want to work with clients who are miles away, states away, countries away, and be able to edit that footage remotely. And right now, the only real semi-real-time solution has been Interplay from Avid, which has been prohibitively expensive. There have been tools by Teradici. There have been tools by Amulet Hotkey that rely on PC over IP technology. But there really hasn't been anything groundbreaking to make it accessible to the traditional creative. And I'm really hoping to find something this year that kind of fills that gap.
Before I let you go, I want to have you reflect on something Terry was talking about earlier, where he feels that NAB is less relevant today than the information we're able to get online or from social media groups. What's your thought?
I'd have to disagree with my good friend Terry, because I think that he's coming at it from a different perspective, a business owner perspective. And I think NAB is not only for the business owners, I think it's also for end creatives. I think there are a lot of announcements that get lost in the NAB white noise. And so manufacturers like Apple, manufacturers like Blackmagic have been doing their own announcements outside the NAB sphere because they can capture hearts and minds without being lost in the jumble of NAB. I think there's also a segment of the population that are creatives that aren't spending tens, hundreds, or millions of dollars on gear, and they want to see what's out there, and they want to network, and they want to talk to the people they've been talking to on forums for years, and they want to get the education from post-production world. So I think it's a completely valid show for many reasons. I think just not for the reasons Terry would be looking at them for.
Michael, for people that want to keep track of what you're doing on the web, where can they go?
Two places. You can go to michaelkammes.com, or you can check out my web technology series at 5thingsseries.com.
That website is all one word, Michael, Michael, Kammes, michaelkammes.com. And Michael Kammes is the Director of Technology at KeyCode Media. Michael, as always, it's fun to chat. Thank you for sharing your time.
Thanks, Larry. Talk again soon.
I was just thinking, NAB is a time of news and announcements, and here at The Buzz, we're committed to bringing as many of them to you as we can. But we also have some announcements ourselves that I want to share with you tonight. To start, next week, our entire team travels to Las Vegas for the 10th straight year to cover NAB. Over the course of 3.5 days, we are interviewing 88 different companies, almost 100 individuals, produced into 27 live 40-minute shows. Our booth, if you want to watch, is South Lower, 10527. We present a new show every hour starting at 11 a.m. on Monday. You can see the entire schedule by visiting nabshowbuzz.com. As well, we're experimenting with 2 new technologies as part of our coverage. The first is that every show will have an interactive written transcript created by Simon Says, available a couple of hours after each show. When you click a link on our website, you'll see a transcript that automatically scrolls as you listen to the show. The first version of each transcript will be machine-generated. Then, a few hours later, a human-curated version will be posted. We've learned, as we've experimented with this technology, that AI is good in general but very weak when it comes to technical jargon and nouns. This is why we're making 2 passes through each transcript. The first is fast. The second is far more accurate. The Simon Says website is all one word, simonsays.ai. Second, we're partnering with Cinemaker and their new mobile streaming technology to provide live video streams of one show each day. So we have dedicated the 2 p.m. show on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to originate from the Cinemaker booth. You'll be able to hear the show as usual on our website, and you can watch the stream on nabshowbuzz.com or YouTube or Facebook. You'll find all the details of our video and audio streams on nabshowbuzz.com. And the Cinemaker website is Cinemaker, M-A-K-E-R, cinemaker.net. I've been hosting the Buzz at NAB for 10 years, and I look forward to it each year. It reminds me of the power and flexibility of live broadcast, combined with the ability to share the latest technology news with you. You can also chat with us on Facebook at digitalproductionbuzz.com and Twitter at DPBuzz. We'll have our whole social media team, Laura and Annabelle and James, at the show and chatting with you. It'll be a fun time. And I'll talk with you again Monday morning at 11 a.m. on nabshowbuzz.com. I want to thank our guests this week, Chris Brown with NAB, Ned Soltz with Red Shark News, Terence Curren with Alpha Dogs, Philip Hodgetts with Lumberjack System, Michael Kammes with KeyCode Media, and James DeRuvo with doddleNEWS.com. There's a lot of history in our industry, and it's all posted to our website at digitalproductionbuzz.com. Here you'll find thousands of interviews, all online and all available to you today. And remember to sign up for our free weekly show newsletter that comes out every Saturday. Talk with us on Twitter at DPBuzz and Facebook at digitalproductionbuzz.com. Our theme music is composed by Nathan Doogie Turner, with additional music provided by smartsound.com. Our producer is Debbie Price. My name is Larry Jordan, and thanks for listening to the Digital Production Buzz. The Digital Production Buzz is copyright 2018 by Thalo LLC.